On our political debate, Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting is debating with the Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Manish Tiwari and Ravi Shankar Prasad. Thank you very much. Mr. Tiwari, you appear to have really given, your government appears to have given Omar Abdullah a very long rope. He can say anything about the Afzal Guru hanging, and you say that these are his views and he's free to express his views. He's not just any person. He's the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and his party is in alliance with you at the centre. By giving him such a long rope, are you allowing your own partner and the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir to do things which can amount to stoking passions in the Jammu and Kashmir state at a very sensitive time?
Well, I think, Mr. Goswami, you characterize the relationship, very succinctly. He is the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. And as the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, I think he has a right to articulate his views. So therefore, if you hear him in entirety, he said a series of things. And obviously, as somebody who's charged with the responsibility and the remit of ensuring that the ground situation remains under control, he is well within his rights to articulate a point of view. He is an ally of ours. We have taken his views on board. But ultimately, there is a certain decision which got taken, following the due process of law and the due process of constitution. And so, therefore, that is what it is.
There is a clear difference in line between what his father says in Delhi and what he says in Srinagar. The question is whether you are allowing him to do that. Ravi Shankar Prasad, do you find this this explanation of Manish Tiwari, acceptable, given the present context in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I will see it a little differently, or no. We understand the consequences of the decision, though taken lately, will have some impact in Jammu and Kashmir for a variety of reasons to which we need not go now. Except to say that the Jammu Kashmir of 2013 is vastly different from the Jammu and Kashmir of 84 or 89. Thousands of innocent Kashmiris have been killed by terrorists from across the border. Many religious leaders have also been killed by terrorists from across the border. In such scenario, it was very important and prudent for the Chief Minister to ensure, while doing something legitimately for his political needs, to also calm the situation and not to give a fillip to it. I would leave it to the judgment of Mr. Omar Abdullah, the Chief Minister, to take a call on the concerns which I have flagged. Kashmir is an important part of India, an integral part of India, and we have to ensure that elements from across the border do not get any space in the present scenario.
Why aren't you being tough enough, Manish Tiwari? It is completely understandable that, by saying that and look at what he says, Manish. He says that the hanging of Afzal Guru can increase the sense of alienation. He says it may have worrying implications on the psyche of a new generation of Kashmiris. In other words, he's feeding on the insecurities. He is providing himself room to insulate himself politically in case the situation in the valley corners him. But he has the responsibility to the state. And I'm afraid, Mr. Tiwari, just because you are in an alliance with him both in Srinagar and Delhi, you cannot give him this kind of leg room.
Well, on the contrary, Mr. Goswami, if you were to read the statement of the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir in entirety, and I don't think I need to hold a defense for him, he is more than capable of articulating and defending his own views. He's expressed a series of apprehensions, and he's also said that those apprehensions have to be addressed and they have to be allayed. He's taken on the responsibility of dealing with the implications of the situation, and allow me to complete. So therefore, you need to really look at the statement of the Chief Minister in its entirety and not really cherry pick and nitpick on a phrase here or on a word there. After all, listen to me. I think you should have the courtesy of affording me the opportunity to reply to your rather longish question. Over the past couple of years, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, the National Conference Congress Alliance, has ensured that the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir improves.
That was not my question.
Possibly the two best tourist seasons you've possibly had the two best tourist seasons, in the last 2 summers.
We are not.
So therefore,
we are not,
need to see things in a holistic perspective.
Holistic
rather than trying to sensationalize.
No, that's all right, Mr. Tiwari.
Rather than trying to sensationalize
Mr.
and
Tiwari.
read a statement which he has made
so I'll
or
read out
apprehensions that he has expressed out of context.
May I read out a part? He says, and you are a lawyer, and you can tell me who's sensationalizing. He says, the judgment talks about satisfying the collective conscience of society. You don't hang someone to satisfy the collective conscience of society. You hang somebody because his hanging satisfies all the legal requirements, not societal requirements. How can you hang a person because you think the society demands it? You hang a person because the law demands it. Now, I can understand, Mr. Tiwari, if a separatist says this. But this is not a separatist. This is the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir who's essentially saying, and then I'll get a response to this particular part, nothing out of context. A Chief Minister is saying that only to satisfy the collective conscience of society this man has been hanged. Who's taking things selectively, Mr. Tiwari? Isn't Omar Abdullah guilty of doing that?
Well, again, I think you need to also understand as to what he said before that and what he said after this particular averment that you have read out.
No, it's not. He's reacting.
Insofar as the judgment is concerned, now, Mr. Goswami, if you want to make it a monologue, you are welcome to do that.
I can give
but
you the
every
context.
time I try and reply, if you're going to interrupt, then if we are going to interrupt each other, then neither your viewers and nor Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad would be able to understand the lay of the argument. So therefore, you need to really understand what he said in a holistic context. Insofar as the judgment of the Supreme Court is concerned, insofar as the constitutional process is concerned, I don't think anybody has really questioned it. Yes, he has raised certain apprehensions about what could be the implications since he is handling the ground situation, and so therefore, to really grudge him even the right to articulate certain apprehensions which he thinks that we as a country, need to take into cognizance and need to address, I don't think is a fair way of really dealing with the situation.
Mr. Tiwari, it is clear that you are being extremely generous to him. You can be, you may have your own reasons. But I'll tell you the context in which he was replying. He was replying in a certain context where he was asked to react to the protests that, yes, Mr. Prasad, I'm coming to you. He was asked to react to the protests that Afzal did not get a fair trial. So, from his answer, it emerges, given the context in which he was asked the question, that the Chief Minister also seems to be endorsing the view that Afzal Guru did not get a fair trial. Now that itself, prima facie, Mr. Tiwari, is a very worrying position to take. I'll come back to you. Ravi Shankar Prasad raised his hand. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Prasad. I'm coming back to you, Mr. Tiwari, after that.
Now, since you raised that particular comment of the Chief Minister of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Omar Abdullah, it is very important to disabuse ourselves of this lingering canard being spread. As a person who has read and read the judgment, let me tell you the Supreme Court in more than 40 paragraphs has elaborately considered the role of Afzal Guru. He identified the dead body of 5 terrorists who had come from Pakistan. The post-mortem report bears his signature. Those terrorists talked to him on his mobile phone earlier and 2 minutes before the actual execution of the dastardly crime of attacking the parliament. The mobile phone was purchased by Afzal Guru, for them identified by the shopkeeper. The chemical for explosives was purchased by Afzal Guru, identified by the shopkeeper from fair in the... No, my point is, there are 7-8 circumstances which has been elaborately considered that he was the principal conspirator to facilitate this massive attack on India. And thereafter they say, in the light of all this, they uphold the capital punishment. It is not a case that for satisfying the collective conscience of the society simpliciter, the decision has been taken. So at least when the Chief Minister of a state talks about it, he must at least ensure that he has gone through the entire judgment and articulation is such. And in the same judgment legal process or not,
I'd like to go back.
Guru was, Professor Gilani was acquitted or not? That lady offender was acquitted or not? Therefore, the same process, many one who were given also capital punishment by the session judge,
no, so what
by the High Court, confirmed by the Supreme Court.
No, Mr. Tiwari says that that the Chief Minister is entitled to his point of view.
No, certainly he is entitled to his point of view, but he is also a chief minister of a state where certain forces is sponsored from across the border
Mr. Tiwari,
are trying to spread canard. When he makes this statement, there has to be a caution and also a caveat. That's what I'm saying.
That's the point. Mr. Tiwari, on that I'm sure you concede that the Chief Minister has to be very responsible. He cannot be allowed a scope of misinterpretation which can end up compromising the interests of the nation. And when he says there, when he repeats the point of view that on whether there was a fair trial, he risks doing that.
You know, Mr. Goswami, that on the interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment, it is quite possible that you, I, and Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad may just be on the same page, but that does not mean that somebody cannot have a contrary view. And therefore, if he contextualizes his contrary view in terms of as to how he interprets the judgment, but then fairly concedes that it is his responsibility to deal with the implications and the fallout of the event or the act of having awarded capital punishment, I think he's addressing the issue holistically. So therefore, I think you need to be a little
the Chief Minister,
a little patient, a little magnanimous in the manner in which you interpret the statement. I think it may make for a good television show. That if we were to sort of cherry pick a word here or nitpick a word there, but let's also understand that here is a man and here is a party which has withstood the onslaught of separatists, of terrorists, over a period of decades. It's not a question of a year or 2 years, but over a question of decades.
Sure.
So to really question their credentials and say that they're behaving in a responsible manner, is absolutely out of line.
Right.
Is absolutely out of line, because by doing that, you are really playing into the hands of all those forces who want to undermine the nationalist presence in Jammu and Kashmir. I don't think that's a responsible way of doing it.
Well, Mr. Tiwari, that's your view. You have a right to have your view. But certainly I know that deep within you may have your...
That's precisely what I'm saying.
That's your view, but I can understand... I can understand your view.
Maybe on the same page.
No, Mr. Tiwari.
Mr. Tiwari. Maybe on the same page in terms of our interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment.
Mr. Tiwari.
But that does not mean that essentially, somebody else also has to have the same interpretation, chapter and verse.
No, nobody needs to. But at the end of the day, we are not talking of an activist. We're talking of a chief minister. That is the most critical part. I have one last question here to Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, and I want to spend a few minutes on this before I wrap up. Mr. Prasad, I know you'll tell me that it's my same old rant. The BJP's 2009 manifesto, and I quote from it, says, BJP will send out a simple message loud and clear to terrorists and their sponsors. They will have to pay a heavy price for each innocent life lost. Retribution, these are your words, will be swift and exemplary. The authority of the state, which has been diminished by the Congress in pursuit of vote bank politics, shall be restored. Mr. Prasad, why does this manifesto not seem to be applying in the context of the killers of Rajiv Gandhi and Beyonce? Especially the killers of Beyonce.
I would tell you very clearly, Arnav Goswami, yes, in the context of the enormity of the threat country is suffering from terrorism, particularly from across the border, the firmness of the state is required to be established.
Yes.
We hold the view, in case of Afzal Guru, there has been delayed.
In Punjab.
But now that it is done, I don't want to politicize the issue. As far as the case of Punjab is concerned, a couple of days earlier, I was with you in the same channel. The BJP's view we have reiterated. We don't discriminate. But he has got the right for a consideration of his clemency. It is pending before the president. Let it be disposed of. In case of Rajiv Gandhi's killer, it was a very unfortunate incident.
No, tell me in the case of Punjab.
For the country.
In the case of Punjab, the Supreme Court has said the whole thing is a drama. That's the observation of the court.
Arnav Goswami, I'm sorry to say I don't wish to debate on issue on certain observations, howsoever provocative may be. Because as senior lawyer, let me remind you, there have been cases where very provocative observations have been made, and they are not reflected in the final judgment.
No. Okay, but let's take a broader view. Okay, let's not take that, because let's not get into. But shedding its soft state image.
Please.
Shedding its soft state image, which the Congress party did execute Afzal Guru. My question to you, sir, Mr. Rajwana, are you on the back foot on Rajwana? Can I get a comment from Manish Tiwari? Manish Tiwari, what is the position of the Congress party?
Please.
On the Rajwana case. I'll get
I only want that the clemency should be disposed of at the earliest. And the law should take its own course.
The man is not seeking clemency. The state of Punjab is seeking clemency on his behalf. Manish Tiwari, yes, please.
Well, I think, Arnab, you need to realize that every clemency petition, whether filed by the convict himself or filed by the next of kin or filed by his friend, needs to be considered in the unique facts and circumstances in which that particular case is located. So therefore, to extrapolate from one situation and to really lump everything together is not, I think, a fair way of looking at it. We are dealing with extremely sensitive. We are dealing with matters which have been qualified by the statute, by the Supreme Court as the rarest of rare cases, and I think there needs to be a certain sense of responsibility and restraint which needs to be displayed on all sides. What the UPA government has demonstrated is that we do not politicize these matters. We allow legal and judicial processes to unfold. We allow constitutional processes, to play themselves out. So therefore, my request to you would be that let's, when discussing the issue of capital punishment, be very restrained and
yes,
be very
Mr. Tiwari,
but in our articulation.
Yeah, surely, but it is also a matter of fact and a matter of public knowledge and a matter of discussion, not just in the media, but in the highest courts of this country, that most unfortunately these cases have been guided in the past by political considerations. So the questions will be put, but clearly on both sides I see that there is
May I also make a very generic observation? A former Chief Justice of India, when he was asked about his views on capital punishment, he says, I personally do not subscribe to it, but I will implement it till the time, since it is there on the statute.
So what is your position?
When you are talking about capital punishment, when you're talking about capital punishment, there is no one size that fits all.
Sure.
Each case rests on its
What is your position on Rajwana?
And each case, there is no question of me or anybody else taking a position on it, and neither should you take a position on it.
I am asking a question.
Should be taken by those people who are. I'm replying to that. I'm replying to that. The position should be taken by those people who are charged with the responsibility of dealing with the mercy petition on the unique facts and circumstances.
Well, in that case, I take your point. Just before, I'd like to only point out one thing. I'd like to point out one thing. What you say is fantastic, but let me remind you, Manish Tiwari and even Ravi Shankar Prasad, you know this, that it was the government of Punjab which made a statement that Rajwana will not be executed even while it was filing a petition in the case on the matter. So they already had predisposed themselves to which way this case will go. But I take your point, let there be no politics, but then let political parties do no politics over such cases. Manish Tiwari and Ravi Shankar Prasad, thank you very much for debate number 2.
Well, I completely agree with you. Even political parties should desist.
Absolutely. Let's see if they do. Thank you very much.